Okay, I think we've got a live event kicking off here. Hey, folks, first let me welcome everybody to our Data Dynamics and Microsoft webinar today. Today, we're going to talk about Reimagine, Reorganize, and Reinforce. These are 5 data-driven approaches to a successful cloud migration. And believe me, everyone hears cloud migrations, they get a little concerned about it. So with me today, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce my subject matter experts. I have Vamshi Kommineni with Microsoft. Vamshi is a group product manager in the Azure Storage Engineering team. He's the head of product for Azure Object Storage, responsible for product strategy and delivery, growth of the business, and working closely with strategic customers and partners. Vamshi's been at Microsoft for 18 years in a variety of roles, ranging from software engineer to engineering manager, product manager. He's been on the Azure team for 15 years, beginning back in the Project Red Dog days when it was a small startup endeavor with less than 25 people. Prior to Azure, he was a developer in the Windows team, working with reliability features in the core operating systems division. Welcome, Vamshi.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
Great to have you. Also with me is Cuong Lee. Cuong serves as the Chief Strategy Officer for Data Dynamics. Cuong brings 27 years of information technology experience in enterprise infrastructure sales, marketing, and development for leading enterprises in the financial services, healthcare, IT, and manufacturing industries. His domain expertise is in storage, server, and systems management, are instrumental in helping customers innovate and address their dynamic business requirements to drive greater business agility, speed of delivery, and to maximize the value within their investments. Welcome, Cuong.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for that trip down memory lane. I remember back in the old days, we were dealing with technologies and green screens and all that. Now just look at us today and how amazing our multimedia experience we have. So glad to be here. Looking forward to this panel.
Great. I got a great group of subject matter experts. Team, my name is Chris Cochran. I'm the Vice President of Cloud and Strategy and Alliances for Data Dynamics, and I'll be hosting and emceeing our event here as we traverse this conversation around cloud migrations. So let's dive in. Folks, I got to ask this question. What comes to mind when you see the black hole? You know, my first thought was, thinking about all of the complexities, all the unknowns as you're thinking of pursuing a cloud strategy. And as you begin to embark down that process, all of these little nuances crop up. And I've been involved in these migrations from way back in time. Anytime you move data, I hate to refer to it as a science project, but it truly becomes a science project because there's so many variables that go into having a good migration. So today, what I want to share with you is a lot of the industry experiences from my panelists here. These subject matter experts have been there and they know this space very well. But let me set the table for you and help you to understand some of the complexities that we're seeing that have been proven out in the industry. Every single day, there's approximately 2,500 petabytes of data that's generated, of unstructured data, which is 90% of that data is created every single day. That's a lot of data. And where are you going to store it? Obviously, the cloud strategies, people are looking for that avenue. In addition, we found $100 billion of wasted migration spend, starts and stop, is expected over the next 3 years. And cost has always been that major inhibitor. And I think we're going to help you on that front. 38% of the companies have experienced a delay in migrations by greater than one single quarter. Once you get behind the curve, it's often harder to catch up and to get those migrations completed, especially around events such as data center evacuations and things that are imperatives that have often start and stop deadlines attached to them. So team, we're going to dive into all of these different areas today. Again, I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and let's dive into some of the meat in the discussions today. Vamshi, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. I'd love to understand from your perspective, what are some of the common challenges you see in cloud adoption from Microsoft's perspective, please?
Great, thanks, Chris. So yeah, when people think about migrations and moving workloads, it's often a pretty daunting task, regardless of size of organization. Sometimes, in fact, the bigger organizations have, even more complex challenges. And, and it runs the gamut. So, we see customers who are, moving, an app or a workload at a time, and they're in some form of hybrid mode for many months or years. We also see folks who are, shutting down data centers. Their leases are expiring, and they're, like trying to move every piece of software in a particular data center into Azure. So you sort of have these two modalities, and the canonical thing that people think about when they think about moving to the cloud is they say, okay, great, I've got a bunch of servers that, I've got, VMs on them, and, I'm going to move my VMs, right? And, what we found as people, done these migrations for many years now to Azure, where the challenges is really with data migration, right? Now, whether it's structured data and you're moving your databases, that's one challenge, right? How do you, move the databases with minimal downtime? How do you sort of move them with, consistent state? There's a whole set of challenges in database migration. But interestingly, there's also a pretty, complex set of challenges with unstructured data migration. All those sort of forgotten, unsung sort of filers and from different manufacturers that you have lying there that are providing the state that your application is storing or reading data from, log files, you name it. Moving that data takes, time because there's sort of laws of physics and how long it takes to, copy all of that data over and make sure you don't have any data loss, make sure you validate everything. And it can be challenging because of how you think about downtime, number one, and number two, you have to think about different, like a VM is a VM, right? You can sort of describe a VM on premises. That's the beauty of virtualization. You can largely describe the same VM, maybe a little bit of spec differences on CPU or something like that, but you largely get the same VM. With storage, it's not quite the same. Cloud storage services are very different from on-premises storage services, though there's sort of an ongoing effort across every cloud provider to make that migration seamless. They are different. So you have to think about, what's my destination, right? What kind of workload profile do I run on premises today? What kind of workload profile do I get in the cloud? So as we kind of look at these, migration challenges, we've sort of largely solved, I would say, the VM migration problem, right? The database migration problem is scoped and well understood, but I think the storage migration, the unstructured storage migration problem is still, a bit of an unsolved problem. Microsoft provides some tools, our partners provide some tools, but that's kind of where we see things at.
Yeah, you've really keyed in on some of the key issues, especially the structured data. Yeah, they're the tools that set in place, and then the unstructured data, that seems to be a little bit on the wild west. Cuong, you've got a lot of experience around the unstructured data. What are some of those common challenges that you would see from cloud adoption?
Yeah, quite a bit of the challenges customers have is they don't even know their data. They don't even know what they have. So a real big challenge is that a number of these data or files or unstructured data maybe have been created years ago by people who are no longer with the company. There may be documents that are out there today, or there may be situations where customers or salespeople, they absolutely love their CRM systems and their structured data so much that they export all of that to a Excel spreadsheet, and then they share it with other people in the organization, other departments. And when you do that, there's PII information, there may be credit card information, telephone number information, or things that shouldn't necessarily be there. And so the challenges are multifold. So one is you have all these different heterogeneous vendor technologies that provide you file share storage technologies. Each one of them has slight little nuances. They support security slightly different. They support multi-protocol slightly different. There are different ways in which they react to access times being modified or changed, or there are some compliance set of storage. And so it's understanding all those nuances, understanding your data, understanding what's important, and understanding the type of data that you want to get up into cloud is one of the really big challenges. But once you understand, it's also being able to execute. And this is like one of the real key things is that we see 67% of the time customers' migration projects take longer than they expected, or cost more than their budget is a common challenge. And this is one of the reasons why we've been partnering with Microsoft, is looking at how do we help alleviate those challenges for customers.
Yeah, boy, I heard a lot of good information in that, and let me just kind of put a synopsis on that. Number one is, the background and experience that it takes and requires to move those data workloads up and into Azure it's something that people don't do every single day. Fortunately, we get to do it every single day, so we see a lot of those pitfalls that we can help navigate through, and I think that's really important. So, gentlemen, great responses on this. I know there's a poll being cast out here to the teams. Please go in and share your experiences here, your information with us. This is very valuable for us to ingest that information back. And thank you, subject matter experts. I'm going to move into the next question here. And Vamshi, this one's going to be directed for you, if you don't mind. It says, how is Microsoft helping clients seamlessly transition into Azure?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Chris. So I think, following on what both, Cuong was saying, as well as my earlier points, I think we've really sort of looked at, how do we help solve the unstructured storage migration challenges, right? And when we think about that, there's a few things that come to mind. First, you have to have the right source and destination support, of course. You have to be able to scan, different kinds of on-premise storage systems efficiently. You have to be able to support the different, block, file, and object storage services inside Azure, right? And, but that's sort of only step one. You have to be able to move the data efficiently. Of course, you have to be able to fill the pipe, right? Regardless of how much network throughput you have, you should be able to control how much of that throughput you use and be able to, move it as fast as possible. Those are sort of the baselines, if you will. But then I think there's a lot of other interesting things that we want to consider in a good migration solution. The first thing is discovery, right? Like just efficient, good, fast discovery of all the different possible sources, different volumes on premises, different storage hardware, etc. Then as you move data, you want to move data with full fidelity, right? You want to be able to move your ACLs, you want to be able to move permissions, you want to be able to move the metadata that's associated with the data. It's not just remove the byte stream and you're done. And you need to be able to deal with the quirks of the destination system. What if the destination system doesn't have the same set of permissions or things? Now, how do you preserve the metadata in some kind of sidecar or some kind of sidecar file or something like that? Then as you're migrating the data, right? Like it's not, common that people can just say, yep, our file servers are all shut off for the next 3 weeks while we migrate, right? So you need to have the ability to correctly, drain stuff from the source without stressing out the, systems that are supporting production at that point. You also need to do convergent migrations, or what we call en-pass migration, right? You copy all the data that you snap at one point in time, and then in that intervening time, you have new data, your data has changed, applications, users, it doesn't really matter. You have a lot of changes in data, so you got to go back and rescan, do another pass. And then you kind of do these smaller and smaller passes until you can bring the cutover time. You move the applications as well. In the meantime, of course, the VMs, the databases. And then there's a cutover point where you can keep the downtime, as small as possible. It might be a few minutes. It might be, over a weekend, where you're able to kind of issue downtime. So that's the way we do that. And then, once all of these migrations are done, you also need validation, right? That's a super critical last step of being, very, properly audited and know that the data that you had on the source system is the data that you have in the destination system, because you're not going to be able to decommission or delete data on the source unless you know that that's the case. So you put all of these things together, you need an end-to-end migration solution, not just sort of a tool that copies data for you. So that's the way we think about this problem, right? And some of the other considerations are, how fast can you move to a first migration, right? Like the time to first migration is critical. When somebody gets handed this project in the IT environment, it's always like, can I have that yesterday, right? And the other part of this is cost, right? Like this is not something that's typically budgeted for. So, cost of migration is something that needs to really be taken into consideration. So we put all of these requirements together, And we went and said, hey, how do we deliver this to our customers as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible? So the first thing, we have something now called the Azure Storage File Migration Program, which allows a customer to kind of go to Azure, discover, set things up and copy data over with a set of partner solutions, right? And Data Dynamics is one of our chosen partners here because they have a very comprehensive solution around data migration that I think Cuong can probably do better justice to than I can. But the other aspect of this, is one, we want to make it friction-free. We want to make it easy to start. So it's in the Azure Marketplace. You can just go in a couple of clicks and get going. But second, we also want to address the cost piece of it. So this is something that, between Data Dynamics and Microsoft, we are making the migrations free for customers. So any customer moving data into Azure doesn't have to pay for it. So you don't have to kind of go say, hey, here's my other budget line item to copy data. And of course, you're paying for the Azure resources as you spin them up, but you're not paying anything for that ingestion. You're not paying anything for that discovery and migration. That's something that that Microsoft and Data Dynamics are taking care of.
Vamshi, great details, great experience showing through. Thank you. And also thank you for highlighting the Azure Storage Migration Program. It's really becoming a hit. And from all the customers that we've had the opportunity to work with, they just are pleasantly surprised that there's no cost for the StorageX licenses. Now, we will show you a demo team here in just a little bit as we wrap down a little bit further into this, and we're going to talk and step through each of the procedures in the marketplace, which Vamshi mentioned, and we'll take you right into the actual demonstration and setup and configuration of StorageX, and it's pretty cool. Let me move forward here. Cuong, I've just got a question for you, and that's how is Data Dynamics partnering with Microsoft to help clients reimagine, reorganize, and reinforce their cloud adoption?
Yeah, very good question, Chris. And a lot of this, ties in with what Vamshi was talking about. Customers have very complex environments. They don't know what they have. And so first, what we do is we help customers understand what they have. And understanding is one part of it. But how do I make that data more useful, more usable, have more value? Because your journey over to Azure is all around how do I do things more intelligently? How do I enrich the data? How do I improve my data science capabilities? How do I improve my data compliance, my data management, and those things? So, the first aspect is that understanding, but enriching that data as you're driving the understanding. Some of the things Vamshi mentioned that was very important is being able to work with heterogeneous environments. We've worked with the enterprise customers for quite a long time. And so our technology base is 12 years proven in the marketplace. It's been working with customers for a long time. But because of that, we've learned how to work with customer file systems, whether it's Windows, whether it's the mainframe, whether it's AIX, file systems, whether it's NAS file systems, whether it's object storage systems, like S3 or other types of object storage systems. So we've had to support a whole, breadth of that. And because of that, we've also had to go and work in terms of the full fidelity of data. Our objective is to provide you that full fidelity of data, but each of the sources and targets have different levels of support. And it's working with those nuances and translating it. So some examples I would put there, not only about maintaining the full fidelity, like I'll use an example. There are some tools out there or applications out there that will go and reset the access time on the source. Now, the access time of data is actually very critical because it tells you how, when was someone last accessed it, whether it's something that is even useful, whether it might have impacts on your compliance and regulated industries. So it's very important to maintain the access time. And we've discovered many customer environments where they started off and, that wasn't maintained, and that created issues and regulatory issues, for them, after the fact. So we do that. Or in many customers, there's been mergers and acquisitions where they've acquired different companies and they're all getting them up into Azure. Well, there might be user at old company in the SIDs, and they want to go to user at new company on Azure as the new SID. And so there's things like that we can do with security and SID mapping where we can go and translate as well. So it's not only maintain the fidelity, but allowing for the translation, which helps with customers with mergers and acquisitions, cleaning up the environment and all of that. But also, as we work in that environment, we automate the entire process. We have a proven process that goes through multiple passes in the customer's environment. So first, we can start off with doing a baseline copy of the customer's environment. We would do that baseline, we capture that data, we tell you exactly how long that's going to take, and then all the files are open and used or anything like that. Anything that changes, we will go catch them on what we call incremental copies. So we'll go through and we'll capture all the differences and all the changes as they happen. As we're doing that, we predict how long it's going to take for you to do the cutover. The cutover is a final increment where we're catching all the last changes, but where you're actually moving to something. And so from an enterprise perspective, many customers, they want to use abilities such as snapshotting capabilities, which Azure Files has, for example. And so what we would do is we can go put the data up there, and if they're required to keep 30 days of snaps, they can go do that in Azure Files, for those 30-day period. And then when they reach the point of they're ready for that cutover, we can cut them over and they have all that in place. So it's really just having that. But I think the most important thing is support. So we pride ourselves on enterprise class support. It's 24/7 by 365, but it's not just break fix support. What we actually do is when we get engaged working with the customer, we will actually assign an engineer and customer success team to you, and we'll help you understand your environment, help you put a plan together, and we checkpoint with you. We're there with you from the beginning all the way to the end. We are there with you to make sure that the program is very successful. When we've done this with our clients, we've seen customers where they're getting 30 terabytes a day of data migration, which is quite incredible, in terms of that. We also have customers who say that it's very important, since they have a certain amount of capacity in their express route and everything else, that they want to be able to, let's say, have nights and weekends where they give us unthrottled access, but throttle the amount of bandwidth that we do. And we do it at a no risk perspective. So you can change that on the fly, and there's minimal impact into the customer environment. All these types of details, considering all of these types of things, this is what it means to be enterprise class. And we're very proud of partnering with Microsoft to provide enterprise class migration capabilities.
Yeah. Cuong, well said. You really highlighted in on a lot of the experiences the customers are getting to take away. More importantly, the things that they're seeing and preventing are those potholes I mentioned earlier. So everything you guys have both said is just really spot on to what I want to say is a successful migration. You can move data, but the challenge is moving it effectively, intelligently into the Azure storage platforms, and they bring the levels of complexities. Thank you for that. What I really heard was policy based is very important. Having it automated is very, very important. Having that final sync to cut over is another key ingredient that really stands out for StorageX and makes it really stand tall in the industry.
And let me also add enriching the data and adding additional context and knowledge to that data, so it's even more valuable for you on Azure. So doing tagging and classification, such as what type of data it is, like for instance, oil and gas would be seismic data. Exactly. For financial services, it may be information about certain types of customers. In healthcare, it may be certain types of diseases or diagnoses or various other types of things. Being able to classify and add that context is where you can get more value out of your Azure investment.
Yeah, most certainly. And those are keys. Let's keep moving forward here. Vamshi, let me bring this one to you. What are the successes you're seeing with the Azure Storage Migration Program?
Yeah, no, it's been great. We just launched this program in February of this year, and already we have a lot of customers that are leveraging the program, are already migrating data. We have a few customers completing migrations last week and this week, so it's been great to see that end-to-end pickup. The biggest thing, though, has been sort of the initial interest and people with tens of petabytes of data coming to us and saying, hey, this is exactly what we needed or wanted, right? Because we were kind of grappling with this. And it's not about necessarily data volume. We have customers with 100 or a couple hundred terabytes of data too, saying like, I wasn't sure how to cover all of these things. I knew how to kind of go build my scripts, move data around. I do it all the time in my data center, but this is sort of a very different kind of move. And I was wondering how I could kind of go do these things. So it's been great to see that interest. It's been great to see the usage of the Data Dynamics software to start moving that data. So yeah, I would say it's going really well, and it's something that we're going to be asking and talking to our customers even more broadly in the months to come as we move into a new fiscal year here over the summer.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing that I echo on that, Vamshi, is the customers are elated for the program. They just really say, "Wow, Microsoft is funding this," and the answer is yes. And they say, "How do I get started?" And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But Cuong, I got to pose the same question. We're right in the midstream of this. The program launched back in February. What are the successes that you are seeing here at Data Dynamics with the Azure Storage Migration Program? Believe you're on mute.
The level of excitement has been absolutely incredible. We've been seeing the program where we're getting registrations, where we're getting people coming in on a constant basis, and our teams are getting engaged and helping the customers. And I think the common feedback I've been hearing is that customers are so happy that they have a partner that is going to work with them from beginning to end, making sure that it's successful. Because that's I would say, out of anything else, a lot of customers in the challenge of migrations is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, as you were talking about earlier. And we help alleviate all of that, and we help provide that helping hand through. So I think it's been a massively successful program, and I'm excited to continue in doing it. And I think the real key is getting people to register on it right away, because I want to make sure that we have our engineers and our teams available and assigned to work with our customers in ensuring success.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. Register early, get the resources allocated to the project for the duration, and then we can get those started. Let me just give a little street information on this. I've been working very closely with the program since launch, and actually since inception and launch. And from the customer feedback we've had, me personally, I've worked so closely with a lot of the oil and gas and a lot of other regulated industry customers. They have large data sets, and they're multiple petabytes in that seismic workload that Cuong had mentioned, and also Vamshi had mentioned, and they're expressly interested in moving that into a cost-effective tier in Azure. And they have large enterprise agreements that they're saying, hey, I want to go move this bulk ingestion of data, and they're looking at us at Data Dynamics with that experience of seismic workloads and saying, hey, let's go spearhead this. You've got the model, you've got the infrastructure architected, let's go make this happen. Here's my infrastructure, marry it up, and let's get started. We've seen that. Financial services, healthcare, the same way, retail, consumer goods, all these industries. Now, even in addition to that, we've seen some state and local government agencies that are moving into the Azure.gov side of the business, and we're assisting them as well. Two of the largest state agencies I've seen across the United States as well. So across these different industries, we're helping a lot of those customers move that data seamlessly and on automated fashion into Azure, and that's really helping them along the way. A lot of times, they do share with me this one common theme is like, I didn't really budget for this particular item, and we're really seeing a lot of value that you've gone above and beyond at Data Dynamics, and that is not only the StorageX platform helping us enrich the data, but you're with me on the journey, the duration, right? And some of these projects that we've entered into with some of the larger strategic accounts that Microsoft has, quite candidly, they could be start projects of small petabytes up to hundreds of petabytes. And, we're seeing the duration of these could last, up to a year. So, hey, when we say we're in, we're really in. Hey, let's dive into this demo. Folks, this is going to be something I think is going to be quite impressive. I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute because I want to hear this demo. And while we're going through the demo, please don't hesitate to post any questions you may have through the chat session, and we'll be bringing up questions towards the end of our webinar today. So let's kick off our demonstration.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Fazzari, and this is the StorageX deployment and migration to Azure. We're going to do this in 5 easy steps. Register your project, deploy StorageX from the Azure Marketplace, add your license, add your sources and destinations, create and run your migration policy. Go ahead and register. You'll be taken to our website where you can plug in the relevant information for your project. I have one pre-filled. Okay. Click submit. You will receive an email containing a license for that capacity that you've entered. And then we're going to go ahead and deploy the StorageX VM from the Azure Marketplace. So just go ahead and search for StorageX. Okay, make this a little bit more visible for you. We're going to use the free or sponsored offering. You can scroll down to review some more details, but we'll go ahead and click Create. Choose your resource group. Give your virtual machine a name. Okay. Go ahead and add a local administrator account to that virtual machine. Okay. And then review the remaining settings and configuration. Okay, this has all been sped up. You can choose the options that suit your needs. Okay. Review and create, make sure it's validated. You can see the validation pass. So we're going to go ahead and click create and create the virtual machine. And you'll see that the deployment is in progress. Now, after the VM has been deployed, we're going to add the license key. This is going to license the capabilities of StorageX. So we'll go ahead and we will finish the licensing wizard. And then we're going to add storage resources. Going to add our Windows file storage resource. And then optionally, we're going to add the Azure Blob object storage resource. We're going to enumerate the shares on Windows. We'll see share 2, which will be used for our policy. And then we're going to review the containers on Azure Blob. We actually want to use the webinar container, which I don't see, so let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, there's our webinar container. So I'll click on that, see the properties of it, and then we'll go ahead into our web interface to create the file to object replication policy. Okay. Click the create button. We're going to name the policy. Choose our file storage resource, shares. This is Windows, so we'll choose share number 2. Choose our object storage platform as the destination, Azure Blob. Choose our container, webinar, replication options if necessary, and then add some custom tags to the objects that StorageX will create. Okay, save that. Let's run it. Come back in a couple seconds and see that it's been completed. All right, we're all finished now. You can review your job metrics, but let's go take a look at our storage account and look in the webinar container to see what's there. Okay, so this is the path to key object that's been created. You saw share 2, we're in the test folder, and then we can review the files to look at the metadata tags that StorageX has applied. Scroll down and we will see that you'll have the event tag, the usage tag, and the owner tag. Okay, there you go. Usage, migration, owner, JF, event is webinar. Thank you for watching.
That was a great demonstration, Jim. Jim Fazzari, I want to thank you for giving the team a good overview of StorageX in use and its policy-based driven engine, which I think is one of the better ones in the industry. Team, as we come back, I want to share with you 3 simple steps to getting started with us. Number 1, simply contact us at azure@datdyne.com and register your migration project. From that, we're going to move you quickly into step 2. Your timelines will accommodate. We'll then introduce you to our onboarding process, and that's going to be a very simple process of understanding a little bit about the estate, the data, the capacity, source, and destinations. From there, we're going to introduce our customer success team, and that's going to be made up of threefold. Number one, our training component. We want to ensure that you are very well trained on StorageX, and I think that's important to have a successful event. Number two is our support organization. We're going to bring the support organization to you at the beginning. Hey, it's technology, and I want to just say for the record that sometimes these are going to break. Sometimes we got to go do some investigations, and we're going to be proactive with you on that process. Having our support team engaged from the point of when we originate our conversations, not only does it help you know who to call, but you'll also have established some communication strings, and then we'll also have a good, thorough background understanding of the estate and the source and destinations we're moving to. Finally, our customer success team, they're going to be with you through the duration. They can help with training requirements. They can help with project management as we're moving through different migration events, right? Sometimes it's a lot of data, and it's kind of chunked up into small projects that we'll tackle, and some say just, hey, I just want to get it all up there at once, right? So however that is required, our customer success team will be with you throughout the process here. Once we finalize that, we're going to move right into the onboarding session, which is starting the migrations. We're going to be with you through the installation and our implementation to installation, setup configurations, creating your policies that automate the migrations. And then once those jobs are kicked off, we'll be checking in with you pretty regularly as we complete and go through the migrations themselves. So just to reiterate here, team, if you have any request here to move into the program, it's simple as scanning this QR code. You can contact us at azure@datdyne.com. Simple email. It comes into my distribution list and my team. And then also, if you require, just add me to that list at chris.cochran@datdyne.com, and we will respond to you that day to get you started on the program, and we will address and meet to your timelines. I've just shared with you a couple of experiences. I did have a customer ask me, he says, how quickly can you start? He was in Perth, Australia, candidly. And we were off time zones. I said in the central US, and he's actually 12 hours ahead of me. And as a matter of fact, I said, today. And he said, well, I'm not quite that ready. Give me a couple of hours to get my infrastructure set up. I sent him the requirements document the very next morning, his morning, my night. We kicked off the installation of StorageX into his environments, and he says, I just can't believe this. I said, well, I'm going to hold you to being a reference for us, both for Microsoft and for Data Dynamics, and he's agreed to that. So folks, we can do these migration implementations very quickly is what I want you to walk away with. So hey, I know we're coming to the end of our time here. I've got about maybe 4 to 5 more additional minutes with you. The process is pretty straightforward as we've shared and explained with you. This gives you a little bit of a diagram of kind of the architectural emphasis we put behind building a successful migration. When we see what your infrastructure is in the on-premise world, we help you to build your policies. So they're just jobs that are going to be kicked off, and you're putting the data into those policies, and they'll be migrated into your Azure files, Azure NetApp files, and into the Azure Blob estate. Obviously, we're looking to ensure that we're driving towards all compliancies that you have. We're adding security as the number one entity here as we're driving that data movement from point A to point B into Azure and making sure that everything is secure. And then finally, in the tiering process, you now take advantage of some of the attributes that StorageX can give you, such as the metadata analytics. You now can begin to pick the proper tiers of storage within Azure that you feel are most beneficial to you. And then you can get very granular with our analytics engine to get into some of the file types and information inside the file, as mentioned by Cuong, around PII and HIPAA data, PHI, personal health information, CCPAs and different types, GDPR, regulatories. We can help you satisfy any of those requirements. So again, great to have this conversation today with you all. Let me pause right here. I think we had some questions that were coming in throughout the day here, and I'm going to fire off for the team. Guys, if you don't mind, I'm just going to capture a couple of questions here that we have. And give me just a moment. It says, here's the first one, and let's see. Vamshi, I'm going to start with you. Is the Azure migrations truly free? That's kind of the trick one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is free for any migration of data into Azure. Obviously we value the trust you place in us as a partner for your workloads, and we want to make it as friction-free as possible. That's the intent behind the program, and we're also grateful to Data Dynamics for working together with us to kind of get this program and make it possible.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad we got that one cleared up. So if there's other questions in the audience about that, let us know. Cuong, what security measures do you take while migrating data to the cloud?
Yeah, very good question, Chris. What we do is, first is discovering and understanding your data. And many times we discover in the customer's environment that they may have data or files that may have PII or may have sensitive information, and everyone in the company is able to access it. Or that, they have excessive number of people accessing certain types of files or others. So we can go identify that, and we can go and repermission those types of files as they're getting up into the cloud, or we can quarantine that data and take actions to go in and place that into a quarantine, or we can go ahead and just repermission it. So there's a couple of different things that we do there to ensure that customers' data are secure. It meets with their governance and their compliance policies as well.
Good. I have one more question, actually two, if I may, for my subject matter experts. Cuong, let me start with you on this one. It says, how quickly can you help me migrate data into Azure?
Well, we can start next hour. I mean, Chris wasn't kidding when he said that we're available 24/7, 365. We have people that are ready to go and engage right now. So, I think as Chris was talking about one of the customers, he said, no, seriously, can you start now? I said, yes, we can start now. Say, okay, well, I'm not ready. Right. So, our focus is attention to detail, is customer service and support, is to be there with you through that whole thing. So reach out. We'll get started with you right away. As you saw in the Azure registration portal, just start off there, send that to us, and we'll immediately get in contact with you, schedule time, get you connected with our SMEs, introduce you to the team, get you the license, get you up and running.
Good. I've got one last question. Gentlemen, I hope you'll let me take this one. Where can I find more information about this program? So let me take this one. So first of all, if you see my shirt, I've got a QR code here. I thought that was pretty cool. You can go with that. So that one really drives a lot of attention. People ask me, hey, what's that? And I say, scan it with your phone. It takes you right into datadynamicsinc.com/Microsoft, which is our registration page. At that registration portal, it's pretty straightforward. Just put in company name, contact information, I think email, and then your subscription ID. At that point, you can pick and choose kind of your source and destination, the capacity of information, and then that comes into my team at inside of Data Dynamics. We've been responding to these almost immediately. Sometimes they may come in overnight, but you'll have a response post haste on that as well. So feel free to do that as well. And then we can get you started in the Azure storage migration program, number one, from a registration perspective, and then we'll begin the engagement from our teams. And that is, like I had mentioned, you'll have our training, you'll have our support, you'll have our customer success team getting engaged with you through the duration of your migrations. Team, that's going to wrap it up today. I know I've come right up to our time allotment with you. If you do have any additional questions, please reach out to us, azure@datdyne.com, chris.cochran@datdyne.com. I want to say a special thank you, Vamshi, for joining us today. It's great to have your expertise. Going back to the Red Dog days, right? This is amazing where Azure is. The growth is just, it's just unbelievable. The reports that we hear quarter over quarter, congratulations. A lot of good work into that. Cuong, your experience and background, 27 years of experience in the industry. You've seen it all. You've seen a lot. You'll see new. Thank you for sharing that with the team today to get a better perspective here as we wrap things up and really have had a great opportunity to reimagine, to reorganize and reinforce the migrations to have 5 repeatable steps into successful migrations. So with that, team, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining. We'll have this on a link because it is recorded, and we can share that out with you as well. But again, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.